Welcome to Recalculating,
Recalculating.
a podcast about spiritual detours.
Honest doubt and the unexpected clarity.
That comes from questioning the path you're
Grew up
on.
with one way to believe,
One way to belong.
one version of God, one direction.
Somewhere along the line, the roadside
Stopped matching the destination.
And I had a choice.
I could keep relying on the map that had me driving in circles or asking some different questions. Today's question is essentially, well, why do you get to ask all the questions? And that's a good question. I launched into this podcast with guests and asking them to tell their story, and I never really told mine, and I'm not doing that today necessarily either. But the reason I did it is because this isn't my first time having a podcast. I used to host one called You Are Not Listening to This. That was entirely just me. There was never guests. So it felt fresh and new for me to go right into talking to other people. But if you don't know me, you have no idea who it is that's talking in these podcasts and why I'm asking questions. And so I'm hoping that this will help put a little bit of context to me. I didn't want to just sit here and start talking. So what I did was I asked ChatGPT to take what it knows about me and to ask me questions. So this week's episode is my conversation with me through AI. I swear I won't do this again. No, this is a bad idea. Anyway, I hope you get something out of it. This is Recalculating.
First question. When you hear the word recalculating, what moment from your own life comes to mind first?
That's interesting. When I think of recalculating, I think of finding a point when your compass was leading you down the wrong direction and having to figure out your coordinates from there without the device you'd use to trust to get yourself there. I think to when our oldest child was still a baby, not a baby, but little, 3 or 4, 3, listening too closely at a sermon. My coming to the conclusion that whatever version of God this child was going to be instilled with, I didn't want it to be instilled in the same way by the same methods that it was instilled in me. Because we were literally sitting in the same church I had come to accept Adventism in with my child. It was literally seeing another version of me at those young ages starting to lock in. It was as if seeing my own past let me know, hey, you might be doing the things you feel like you should be doing. You might be following this path. You might be doing your best at your walk towards sanctification, but you are actually carrying too much. You're carrying more than you would let someone else try to carry. I didn't have any other words or understanding of what that meant at the time. That was the moment when I remember thinking, I wouldn't have used the word, it's time to recalculate.
Question 2. You've written and spoken a lot about growing up Adventist. Can you tell us about the first time you realized your questions weren't safe inside that world?
Yeah, I think I kind of actually do have a memory of that. 2 memories that come to mind, honestly. I remember once asking in a room full of other fundamentalist, literal creationist Adventists. I remember floating the idea for the sake of having conversations with other Christians. Again, not that I was believing this or arguing this to be true, in the sense that there is a dilemma in Genesis 1 for 2 whole sections of Christianity where you have a story that could just be a story telling a process or getting to a point, not necessarily trying to be literal. Then you have the no, this absolutely has to be literal. If you're the 7th day is the Sabbath person, the literal creation week is pretty hammered home. I was saying for the sake of being able to have conversations with other Christians to get past Genesis 1 to be able to talk about the intricacies of all the other things we talked about in Adventism, like the state of the dead and the investigative judgment, and the importance of Sabbath, like to even get to be able to have those conversations. Could we allow for the concept of open views on the creation story, and that perhaps the reason Genesis doesn't tell a story of nuclear physics is because it would have made no sense to Moses or the people that this Moses character is talking to get quantum physics lessons when they just needed to feel like they were a chosen people. Like the end game was not the same. What I thought was interesting about the response was that the room was offended that I was suggesting Moses couldn't handle the truth effectively. Like I was saying Moses, it was somehow I was saying like Moses was dumb or whatever, but he had like the closest connection with God because this was God's dude. This is Moses. If anyone could take what God wanted to tell us and give it to us in a way we would understand, it would have been Moses. Dumbing it down is what it was sound. It seemed like I was saying that was considered offensive. I was like, I can't, I can't question anything.
Digging deeper, question 3. How do you carry your past with you now? Does it feel like baggage, like soil you grew out of, or something else?
Baggage or soil I grew out of. It felt like baggage at first. I'll be honest. When I was in the early steps of deconstructing, which is not even what I would have called it, 'cause that's not what I thought I was doing. In those early stages, like I said, looking at my kid, I felt like I was carrying more than I was willing to pass on. In the moment, it was baggage. Now it is, I call it my worldview of origin because it's the lens I was given to see everything through. I can't really pretend to know what it would be like to have grown up with a different worldview. It is the soil I grew out of, the things that I find troubling, right, in the Christian narrative are troubling because I see them through my Adventist lens. And things that, whatever I see different or whatever I don't in evangelical Christianity, what I see in it that I don't align with or that I don't see as what Christianity is, that Adventism doesn't carry. I like admire the ability to see through that BS that Adventism had. Like, so I don't wear the label of anything, but in the same sense, that is my worldview of origin.
Question 4. You said faith and doubt aren't enemies for you. Can you give an example of how they work together in your life?
I, I don't say they're not enemies. I think they can be. They're not opposites. Faith's not the opposite of doubt. I think certainty and faith are almost enemies because to be absolutely certain about something, you're not really having faith in that. You know it in the sense that the chair you're sitting in, I know this is a tired analogy, the chair you're sitting in is going to hold you. You're certain of that right before you sit down. You don't pray that that chair is going to hold you. You know it will. You don't have faith in the chair. I think to continue to lean and pull and strive for faith and belief in something greater than yourself, something collective and unifying and potentially creative, although not nearly in the sense I would have said that word before, to search for that thing that interconnects us all in a sea of doubt is the ultimate act of faith. There are so many reasons to think this is all there is. And in many ways, this probably is all there is. What does that statement even mean? I think we diminish the idea of divinity and spirituality and inspiration by needing it to be centrally focused somewhere as opposed to being the product of a collective, a thing we can all tap into, a thing that is because we all tap into it. That and doubt, they go hand in hand.
Question 5. What do you miss, if anything, about the Adventist faith you grew up with?
Honestly, when I was a kid, Saturday afternoons after church, because we drove 90 miles from our house to go to church, so it wasn't an easy, simple thing. So instead of turning right back around and driving another 90 miles, we would go to someone's house, eat lunch, spend the afternoon just like hanging out and talking because we couldn't watch TV or listen to music really or play games or do anything. So you were just it was like pure community in a way that I haven't really experienced since in any other thing, not just because of it's not like this was a great product of that religion. I think it was a time frame issue. Like we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have anything to do but sit and talk. I think those interactions are few and far between, like distractionless conversation is few and far between as we develop more technological things outside of the spirituality of stuff. I still find that the most interesting to go. I'll go to a bar or a brewery or something alone with a book or whatever. As an introvert, I do this. End up in random conversations with people I don't know. Those are the only conversations, if you ever find your way into this, those are the only conversations where no one ever picks up their phone. When you're with your friends, you're going to check your phone, see what the kids are doing. Like it just happens because you guys are so comfortable with each other. With complete strangers, there's like this rudeness that you would feel that everyone kind of just doesn't do it. And you get lost in that moment because you don't know where the next thing is going because you've never talked to this person before. That to me feels a lot like Saturday afternoon. Distraction free conversation and haystacks, which you can still eat haystacks. Haystacks are better when everyone in the room that's eating them knows what they're getting into than just in your own kitchen.
Question 6. Do you think you'll ever stop recalculating when it comes to God? Or is that an ongoing practice?
It's definitely an ongoing practice because all of it is nebulous. The goal changes, the path changes, the tactics change. What is God? Like that is an evolving idea now. In that sense, that is a recalculation that will continue. Like your level of belief, your level of intent, your level of commitment to your neighbor. These are all conversations about God, all recalculations, your ethic, your morals. I think it's a continual wrestling process, even when it doesn't always feel like a wrestle. It should be. I think a lot of people go through these processes. We call them different names based on what we're willing to call ourselves. Like I was I had a 2 hour conversation last night with an Adventist who is clearly scientifically minded, is very much leaning towards universalism, is progressive and inclusive. In our conversations of me finding that out about all of that, I'm like, how do you still call yourself an Adventist? I don't know how you can be a universalist in the idea that you can believe God will make a way for everyone to find their way into universal reconciliation, even in the second death. Like he was talking about this, the fire of the second death being potentially purifying. Like I hear you, how you can be a Christian, how you can read the Bible and be a universalist. I don't understand how you can be an Adventist and be one. If the label is important to you and what you're wrestling with the God you believe in, you're doing that within Adventism. Good for you. I couldn't, so I don't wear the label. But at this, so you might say I've deconstructed. You might say he hasn't, based on what we would call each other, even though the openness to the mystery that we both share is a lot closer than you would think.
Question 7. A lot of people feel trapped between certainty and uncertainty. How do you keep uncertainty from becoming paralyzing?
I, I keep uncertainty from becoming paralyzing because certainty was paralyzing and I remember it. Like if something hurts you enough to remember the pain. You're like, I don't want to do that. So this isn't that. If that makes any sense at all. I liken certainty to being when you have the kind of religious certainty that I think fundamentalist Christians have, especially through my worldview of origin, Seventh day Adventism, you carve out what it is that a human can be. And you put yourself into this mold and you have to stay and fit and you can't move out of it. You can't grow in it. You can't stretch. That's paralyzing. Uncertainty is the realization that that certainty was just a protective layer I was giving myself. It was never really there. I could never know the unknowable. So I was paralyzing myself to feel safe. Where uncertainty may not feel, I'm not waiting for some prize or whatever, but I have the ability to grow, move, and stretch. I would never give that up, not after feeling it.
Question 8. What do you wish people who've never been in a high demand religion understood about leaving one?
That it is much harder than it looks. I think people that have never been inside of these kinds of things don't understand the power that they hold over the mind. To simply think differently is almost impossible when you are under the yoke of high demand religion. You can't think differently because the whole house of cards falls down. What I think helps, and I don't mean to get political here, in seeing the way American politics is stuck in this party system of I've claimed this, therefore I have to back it forever, no matter what happens, and seeing things happen that are objectively awful, having to find language to justify it because it can't be awful because it's the thing that's good. People that have left high demand religion see that happening as these political parties have become these high demand religious ideas. We get how hard it is to unplug from that. When you're inside of one, being shown the compassion and empathy to share the truth with people or to share the blindingness that they have, not give them truth, show them the holes in their truth, feels like an attack. And to continue doing it feels like an attack. Also, that's the only thing that works. The only thing that works is to pepper and pepper and pepper and pepper until eventually you can't stand the amount of logic you're ignoring anymore. When you see these deconstructed from fundamentalist evangelical systems or fringe systems like Adventism, Latter day Saints, Jehovah's Witnesses, and they're very vocal about these things, it's because they know you have to hammer it home or it'll never break the hold that these things have on your mind. We are not trying to be irritating. We're trying to be helpful. That's all I got.
Question 9. Where do you see beauty in the midst of a contradiction?
That's a dumb question. There's always beauty in chaos and contradiction. I'm going to skip question 9. Do better, ChatGPT.
Question 10. If your younger self could interview you right now, what's the first question they'd ask?
Why didn't you do this sooner?
Question 11. What's one rule from your Adventist upbringing that still sneaks into your daily life in funny or annoying ways?
What's an annoying rule from my Adventist upbringing that's still pork? Bacon and stuff is in everything. I still can't really eat it. I don't like it, first off. Turns out my stomach, I can't touch shrimp. That's just gross. The seafood stuff that you grow up not eating is just gross to consider eating after a while. Like mussels, that's not really a rule. Those are the things that come up in annoying ways. I'm far enough away from it that I don't still have the Friday night anxiety stuff. That was annoying for like a decade of feeling guilty no matter what I was doing on Friday or Saturday. If you're still in that part, it gets better.
Question 12. If you could recalibrate one cultural conversation, religious or otherwise, what would it be? Where would you point the compass?
If I could recalibrate a cultural conversation, I would make Christians in general able to see racism as a sin, as an ongoing, I'm clearly not repenting of this sin. I am more than a little bit disgusted and tired of all kinds of hate and bigotry being spewed by people that can just simply say, I believe in Jesus. All of a sudden, they're not hateful and bigoted anymore. To accept that is to say, you guys, you marginalized groups, don't mean anything to us or our God. If we can cast you next to Jesus in the flaw of your hatred and bigotry, then Jesus is hateful and bigoted too towards you, which is okay, and therefore not hateful and bigoted because something is wrong with you. The way that Christians do not see that as a crippling crush to their witness is violence in and of itself. I would recalibrate that. I would have to point out and recalibrate the cognitive dissonance that allows the Klan and the Confederacy and these dudes in masks carrying symbols from a time we should never forget being bunched into the Christian right and people that are trying to love their neighbor and take care of the poor and the sick and the unfortunate and the widow and the migrant are cast as terroristic. The whole system needs recalibration. And until Christianity can figure that out, it can't be good. It's not going to be good. They will continue to lose people that want to show the love of Christ and be left with performative Christians that enjoy coffee and worship music, which is great. Have somewhere to go for an hour. That's awesome. But then the rest of the week, the whole system needs recalibrating.